Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And you guys going to love today's guest. Not only has he done a business before which failed, so he is currently the co-founder and CEO of an amazing business, and you guys going to hear from him in a little bit. But what we love more than anything about him is he's one of us. So he said, "Hey, if I do this, it's not an option. I will do whatever I have to be successful." And I know you guys gonna love him. So you guys get to meet him right after this. Hello again. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And I'm really excited to bring not just a really dear friend of mine, but somebody who you guys will find. First of all, he's the co-founder and the CEO of a company. And I'll let you guys know a little bit what he does. But what we love about him has this background of both tech and hospitality. I think that's what we absolutely love about him. And then also he's one of those guys which said, "Hey, even if my business fails the first one, I will try again, and then I will pivot and I try again." And he will do this until he's successful. So with that, let me introduce you to Sterling Douglas, and welcome to the Disruptive Chef Show. I'm super excited to have you. As you guys can see in his background, he's in the beautiful city of Chicago. What we love about Chicago is because I check the weather in Chicago because I know I have this here in Connecticut the day after. So with that, Sterling, welcome to the show, and thanks for the gift of your time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Christian. And I gotta shout out Chicago. I mean, that's a top restaurant town too. These are some of my favorite restaurants in the world are here.
I'm on the East Coast, so I'm in Connecticut, right outside of New York and Boston, because I know Chicago makes a great dirt because, we have the two best ones here on the East Coast. But talk to us a little bit. How did Chowly come to be? And how did you're a good looking guy, you can do something else. How did you wind up in the industry? And help our audience understand a little bit how this whole thing started?
Yeah, I mean, look, I started my career as an actuary. For those of you who don't know, it's basically a combination of statistics and finance. Like, it's the nerdiest thing ever. And I left a perfectly good job to start my first company, which totally failed and put me into debt. But it also led me to Chowly. So it's actually, I think, a story that a lot of entrepreneurs have gone through. Had the job where you got to sit inside a cubicle every day and get a nice, constant paycheck. Moved to a nice risky startup, and after a lot of failures, figure it out.
I love that because so if our audience knows, about a year ago, we started something called ethical stalking. So where we spend some time, we look at your social media, we follow you, and we're like, "Oh, this was really awesome that he said it." I was like, that's really cool. So for us, I have some questions for you later. But also what we love about this industry, I think it's one of the industries you're gonna love it or you hate it. And you tried something else before, but now you have Chowly. So talk to us a little bit, being an actuary. Okay, there's a lot more money there than in the food industry. So that's to begin with. So, but talk to us. Where did the hospitality bug come and bite you? So share a little bit with us where that came from.
I completely stumbled into hospitality by accident. I didn't grow up in a restaurant. It's not like my dad, had a restaurant. I had a couple like odd jobs as a kid and stuff. But I really didn't find my way into hospitality until I really found my way into entrepreneurship. So when I was an actuary, I knew I wanted to start a company. I didn't know what the company was going to be. We had tons of ideas that we were kind of throwing off the wall. And we, as a 23-year-old in Chicago with a disposable income, I was pretty, frequenting all the bars scene here. And, the first app was, the first company that we started was, a mobile app that you could order drinks on your phone at the bar and have it be brought to the table or available at the bar. We built it. I left my job, put in my short lifetime savings into it, went into a bunch of debt. And after 6 months, really just realized it wasn't going to work. My co-founder, he kind of like, he wasn't interested. He kind of left. After 6 months of trying to get it out there, we had 2 bars that were using it full time. We had like another 30 or 40 that were doing some one night events with us, but it just wasn't producing revenue. It wasn't quite sticky enough. I don't think I had the right team. And so kind of, one day, I just kind of decided, like I'm not going to be able to get this where it needs to go. And we got to shut it down. And that was kind of I remember that day so vividly of the failure. I remember looking at my bank account and just my overall situation and how far I had fallen from kind of this, actuary wearing nice clothes every day, going out to dinner all the time. And, now I was sitting on an air mattress, out of money, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. So that was kind of like a bit of the low point. The only way I got out of it was my brother. I was, laying on the floor, kind of feeling sorry for myself, staring at the ceiling. And I called my brother. He was a couple years older than me. And he just said this phrase that just clicked with me. It was like, well, you're going to sit there and sulk about it. You're going to be an entrepreneur and, figure out what's next. And I'm like, oh man, you're so like, that's so right. And within 2 weeks, I had, 3 different projects, kind of up and going that were providing some type of income or had some type of potential. And one of them ended up being Chowly.
I love that story. By the way, to our listeners, leave on the comments below. Do you have a bigger brother who says you just gotta suck it up and do it? Because that happened to me. We spoke before the show. My very first restaurant, I said, I gotta cook my food. Okay. I cook my food. Nobody came. And I was like, how they not coming? My food is amazing, because I was the best kept secret in the industry. And because I kept doing the wrong things over and over again, and we had to shut down. So same thing. I felt really bad for myself. And my brother comes and say, you better than that. What are you gonna do next? And I was like, I gotta soak for the next 3 weeks. And he, no. And I will never forget. He said to me, okay, you have 1 day. So let it all out. Do what you need to do, because tomorrow I'm going to come and we start something new. And then I was like, oh, shit. So, but for me, I think we all need that. So, and for me, by the way, if our listeners haven't done so, you guys need to check out Chowly. And if you're on the market for a program and you guys can hear a little bit more about it, you need to check it out. So for me, I absolutely I love what you guys do. So you guys are known to focus on integration. So for me, I absolutely love that. So talk to us a little bit about the balance of providing a seamless experience for the restaurateurs, which is super important, and then still have that top-notch integration across, really all platforms. Yeah. There's a lot of companies which go out there and say they do this, and they don't do it as good as you. So talk to us a little bit, where did it come from, and how do you do that?
Yeah, one of the hardest things to do in this space from a technology perspective is to provide a consistent experience when the technologies that you're working with change so often and are so varied. We have 64 different point of sale integrations. Wow. And all of these different point of sale companies, they all structure things a little bit differently. They all support different things. There's this kind of laughable idea that you could ask a point of sale system, hey, do you have an open API as like a feature question or a diligence question, and the point of sale company can just say, yeah, we do. Well, that's not helpful. What does it do? What are its capabilities? How open is it? Do you require a fee for a company to work with you? Do you support, live 86ing? Do you have webhook notifications? You have to go so deep. And so the hardest thing is to try to provide a consistent experience across such a varied system, because you want to take advantage of the stuff that these point of sale companies have. Like, Toast has great live 86ing. We want to take advantage of that, even if it's not supported on this other point of sale system. But then you have to be able to communicate to the restaurant, well, which point of sale do you have? Because your experience might be different if you have point of sale A versus point of sale B. And so that is a really difficult thing to do. And especially as APIs have been developing. When we first started, most point of sale companies didn't really have one. And so that's what's so difficult about it. And it's just a matter of chipping away brick by brick, little by little, being methodical and trying to document and be as transparent as possible throughout that experience.
And we gotta get to that a little bit later. I think there's one or two things you guys do much better than anybody else. Also, I like what you said, because a lot of people think hospitality, how difficult is it? Serving the food is not that difficult, but the back of the house, all the things you guys do, it's actually quite massive, and it's a huge undertaking, and it's changing all the time.
Restaurateurs do not get enough credit. It is one of the most deceptively difficult business models there is. It's a just-in-time manufacturing plant with perishable goods in the back, and then a total design shop with low labor staff in the front. And by the way, your cost of goods is crazy variable depending on the markets. And, people think it's just making the food. Like, my mom's a great cook, she could start a restaurant. Like, it is an incredibly difficult business. Most restaurants have more technology in their restaurant than they do food equipment. It's crazy, this misnomer out there. It is a hard business.
It's so true. And for me, there's a few things I think you guys do better than anybody else. And, there's a lot of great systems out there. I love the whole website and first party online ordering platform you have, the Google Business Management you do, the digital marketing service, the dynamic pricing you guys offer. So, but before we get into that, I'm curious to know, why and how did that come up for you? Because I know there's probably 20,000 listeners right now, or probably more, which they know they meant to do something else. They know they meant to serve a community in a larger way. How did Chowly come to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because the platform product that we came out with earlier this year is something I've been wanting to build since the beginning of Chowly. We're really known for our marketplace integration, integrating menus and orders for Uber and Grubhub and DoorDash. And there used to be a ton more before the consolidation. And the whole time we were building that, what I saw in the space is that, like, I didn't want to make a marketplace integration company. I wanted to make technology simpler for restaurants. Right. And so when I saw something like manual data entry, that's a way we can make it simpler. And when we realized when we integrated the first order at Chowly 8 years ago, was that being able to allow their system, all these different technologies to talk to each other at a very conceptual level, that's where the value is. Like, that's how you make it simpler on the restaurant. You make sure each piece is talking to each other. And so the platform is based completely around that. Your Google business profile talks to your website, which talks to your point of sale, which talks to your ads, which talks to your email marketing, so that you can give that holistic look to the restaurant. And at the end of the day, get them more orders. That's our number one job, is to get them more orders, because the way to generate more demand for your restaurant in 2025, it's digital, right? You have your digital storefront is more important than your physical storefront.
Totally agreed.
More people are walking by your digital storefront and thinking about you than ever before. And we really focus on trying to capture that demand and turn it into more orders for the restaurant.
I love what you guys do, on your website and some other time. A lot of people hear you talking about that. You always talk about, hey, I want to make it easier for the restaurateur, for the single operator to get greater control over the operation. And for me, by the way, I find it fascinating because there's very few people who are talking about that. And you also talk about that you have 50 plus POS systems and tools which you are compatible with, which I absolutely love. So I'm going back. I'm interested. How did that idea come up? How did you decide, it says, hey, I want to have a tool which is compatible with 50 plus operating system. I want to have something which makes the life of the operator easier. I want to have something which aims to serve the community of the restaurant do it more than the people out there in the front, because a system is only as good as the people using it, number one. And the second thing is, and you said it, for me, I'm guilty of that too. I order from certain companies because I know it's seamless to order from them online.
Yeah.
And shame on me, but I don't hold this against me. But I think that's so crucially important, and not a lot of people talking about it. So talk to us a little bit. I'm curious, where did that come from? Because you said your first business failed, and then but when people dive in, and I hope our listeners by now have checked out Chowly, but it's so integrative, it's so intuitive the way it's built. It's hands down one of the best products on the market. And so I'm curious, how did you come up with that idea, saying, "Hey, I want to build this thing"?
Yeah. The biggest learning that I had from the first company that failed to the second company that's been fairly successful to this point, I used to chase solutions, right?
Yeah.
So I had a solution in my head and I was trying to apply it to problems, right? That was the first company. That was how everything kind of was shaped. And what I learned is that you really, that's the exact opposite. It's backwards of how you're supposed to do it. You need to chase the problems, and the problems will eventually tell you the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did with Chowly is I would go into the restaurants where there was, there's a pizza place and a sushi place, a couple of our earliest customers. I almost lived there because I was just asking so many questions, to the staff, to the operator, to the owner, because they'll tell you exactly what to build, not directly. Right? If you ask them what to build, they will almost always tell you the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But if you ask them what the problem is, and then why, and then why, and then why, and when you get down to that fourth or fifth level, you can say, okay, if I solved that piece, right? If I solved this particular problem, that cascades up, so you never even have that problem that you're actually describing to me. And that's how we built, Chowly, and that's how we built our platform product. Restaurants told us in so many ways what to build and what problems we needed to solve. And that was really kind of the how that we kind of came up with it.
I love it. By the way, one of my team members asked me, he says, the product is great. Where did Chowly come from? So talk to us a little bit on the name, because she said, "Oh, I think there's so many other names." Well, how did the name come from?
All right. So the first name of Chowly was kind of a ripoff of one of the companies that we were trying to work with that will remain unnamed, but it's a very large company that everybody knows. Because I didn't care about the name when we first started Chowly. One of the mistakes I made on the first company is I spent all this time on what's our brand, what's our name, what's our slogan, does it really fit, does it do all this stuff? And every minute I spent on that was a total waste, because that was a minute that could have been spent on solving a real problem and figuring out how to show value to your customers. So I didn't care about the name. Someone said it randomly because we were integrating from that company. So we just basically literally named it that company and changed one letter and made it even the same logo and changed one letter. And within 2 weeks, Christian, we got a cease and desist order from them. We weren't even live with our first customer. I don't even know how they learned we existed. We got a cease and desist from a $1 billion publicly traded company. We weren't even live yet. And so in my mind, I was scared shitless. And I was like, we got to change this name fast. And we need to change the colors. And we need to change the logo. And so like that night, I spent like 30 minutes at a bar after a few beers with friends, just rattling off real names, fake names, having a good laugh, and then taking a vote. I actually didn't like Chowly. Chowly was like my fifth choice. I liked the name Integration Bistro, which is a horrible name. But at the time, I thought it was great. But a couple of guys I was starting the company with, and a couple of friends and family liked Chowly the best, so that's why we went with Chowly. But I really spent almost no time at it at the very beginning because I didn't care. I just wanted to make sure that we built something that had value and would grow. And so I was maniacal about how we spent our time. But it was a funny story that I should have spent a little bit more time on it so that we didn't, anger someone who eventually became a partner of ours. We have a great relationship with. Our relationship started with what we call a nastygram.
So, but listen, I'm a big believer the name doesn't mean anything, because if you service the customer, better than anybody else, people will follow the name. The name will come. And for me, and you said this earlier as we spoke, and you said it now a few times. I There's one thing I absolutely admire about you, and when people follow you and see how you respond on LinkedIn and some other things,
Mhm.
is everything comes from a solution based point of view. And for me, as a restaurateur, I still have 2 restaurants today. Is for me, I love that because my guy didn't do that, you know. And so for me, I love that you really come. Hey, how can we make it as easy as possible for the end consumer? How can we make it intuitive for them to use it all the time and want to use it? And for me, I absolutely love that about that. So, talk to me a little bit. You said I want to do this. You said you got the cease and desist letter before you even got the first customer. A lot of people will give up. So
Yeah.
where was that drive within you? And I want to talk a little bit more about that. Is where you said, "Yeah, I just changed the name. I go to the bar." By the way, we don't encourage anybody to go to the bar. To come up with some new ideas. But I love that you said that we went to the bar and this was my fifth name, and for now, but for me, I think the name is perfect for the product you have. So talk to us a little bit. Where did that come from? And because getting that letter before you even get the first customer signed up, it's not a fun thing to do. And so, how did you overcome that?
Well, that was the first of 13. We ended up with 13 cease and desist letters. Now, we haven't had one in a while. I'd like to keep that streak going. But we were incredibly disruptive when we first started. We were so new. I knew we had a really good product market fit because half of the customers that we had during the sales process told us, I had this idea. Like,
Mhm.
I was going to build this company. I'll let you have it, or I'll let you do this, which always cracked me up. But it means that the problem was it was really resonating because there were literally restaurateurs that were saying they were going to start Chowly and start the company. But the difficulty in lied in actually executing on it and actually building it and growing it because nobody wanted us. The point of sale companies didn't want us. The
Mhm.
third party marketplace didn't want us. They didn't want us to exist. The only people who wanted us to exist were the restaurants themselves,
Mhm.
which is why we've always been so merchant focused. And we use that to our advantage throughout. But we could tell anytime you're doing something really new, anytime you're doing something that's difficult to understand, or it's innovative, or it's going to affect someone else's business potentially negatively, you're just going to face an uphill battle. That's what
Mhm.
entrepreneurship is. Everyone talks about, what are the defining characteristics of an entrepreneur, grit, perseverance, whatever you call it. You just have to be resilient because the world does not want your company to exist. The
Mhm.
more success you have, the more people will see that and want it for themselves, which I actually think is a good thing, but it means it's going to be hard. So I have no idea where the resilience came from. I just remember when we got the first cease and desist letter, my mind just immediately went to what is next, right?
Mhm.
How will we get by this? And when we got the second one, how do we get by this? Who do I need to talk to? What strategy do we need to get? Do I need to read up on legal terms? Do we need to adjust the way that our technology is architected? Do we need to change the way we market? The mindset is always just it's just so, like you said, solution oriented. It doesn't matter whether the problem comes in the form of an angry customer or a bad month of sales or a cease and desist letter. They're all just problems, and your job as an entrepreneur is to solve them. Whether you
Mhm.
run a restaurant and you're trying to figure out, wow, my location's bad, I got into a bad
Yeah.
lease, right? There's not as much traffic as I thought there would be. You can't turn left because of this intersection. Like, whatever that is, it's just a problem. And one of the things I love about restaurants is that there's so many entrepreneurs, they see it the same way. They say, well, how will I solve this? Do I need to move to a location? Do I need to break the lease? Do I need to focus on more digital, right? Like, all that
Mhm.
creative solutioning. I don't know where it comes from for anybody. I think it's just one of those characteristics that the people who become entrepreneurs and take the leap and then are successful, the only way that you can do that path is by being resilient. So you almost self-select out if you're not.
Oh, I love that. So, if anybody listens to you, you talk a lot about, learning from your mistakes, learning from mentors, and I'm curious who your mentors is. But you also talk about, and just recently you talked about breaking the restaurant industry norm. And for
Yeah.
me, I love that because I think that's one of the things you guys are really good at. So, talk to us a little bit. Where did that come from? And who are some of your mentors you currently kind of go to when you need a pick me up?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in mentors. I think it's one of the single most important things I've done in my life and in my career is to have mentors. My dad, he's my longest running mentor, my first one, and someone I go to a ton. But I mean, I wasn't more than 10 or 11 years old, and in car rides, he would be telling me about the mistakes he had made in his career.
Mm.
And he would tell me that, like, you got to get mentors. I can be your mentor, but you need others. And those lessons that he imparted on me, like, really stuck. So my first day on my first, big boy job after college, my actuary job. This is my first day, with a salary and all this stuff. I'm living in Chicago. I think I'm, really cool and all this shit. And the first day, the guy who leads the entire Chicago office, he has, a few thousand people roll up to him. He meets with all of the new hires. So I was in a room with like 12 or 13 of us, and he met with us. And I just loved the way that he thought. And I was like, I would love for that guy to be my mentor. So I just asked him. I sent him a note. I did a little research on him and just literally said, like, I would love to just grab time with you.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, we can do it super structured. It can be once a quarter, once a month. Like, it can be virtual. I'll come to you. I can go get coffee. Like, I can just meet you in your office in between meetings, like whatever you have time for. And he just said yes. And I used that same play several times early in my career. So his name's Imran. He now runs, I think, like all of North America for the same company, and literally just billions of dollars of revenue that rolls up to him. But he was a huge mentor for me. But he was the mentor that I went to when I wanted to learn how to lead. Like, he's an amazing leader, right? He's an amazing speaker. The way he thought about things was really creative. And so he was the guy I went with, for that. My dad was really good with people. Right. And so if I had a people thing like that would be who I'd go to. Right. And so I kind of realized early, like, I need mentors and I need a different, a roster of them. And so I had another one who was a family friend, and he was an entrepreneur. So I would talk to him about the entrepreneur stuff. And so I have I have a whole host of mentors now. Some of them are like friend/mentors at this point, but they all have different things that they bring. And I have different folks that I go to. Depending on kind of what the problem is or what the need is. But I think it's the single most important thing I've done in my career to help with kind of my learning journey, which I'm incredibly focused on. I think it's super important to learn. That's why I talk so much on LinkedIn about all the mistakes I've made, because I want to make sure I think from them.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on, and for me, our listeners or people which listen for the last year and a half since we do this know that for me, having a mentor, I think it changed. It was for me a game changer. I always knew about getting a mentor, and my first mentor, he was a personal friend of mine. He was not a mentor. Okay, it never worked out. But then I went to somebody, and just much like you, he happens to go to the same church I went to. And I was like, oh, he just got $167 million in a bonus. I think I want to be him. So I went to him and I said, hey, how do you run an international? He was the CEO from Schweppes Cadbury, in the UK. I said, first of all, how do you do that to be the CEO? And how do you do what you do? And he says, it's too much of a conversation. Come over to my house. Make sure you're on time. And I was so nervous. I showed up. I wasn't sure what to bring, and I didn't want to bother him. So I brought like everything I had going. And he says, all you need to do, he says, you need a learner's mindset and something to write. That's all I need you to do. And now 20 years later, he's still my business mentor. And you know what the greatest thing is? I think I know him. I had this new business idea. I was like, I want to do this. And I got him and he says, okay, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? I was like, shit, how does he think of that stuff? I honestly feel we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves, and somebody who looks at things differently. And what I love about him is, now we meet like 3-4 times a year, but every single time I walk away and there's so much value I get from him. And there's days I feel like I don't want to go to him because I know he did so much for me already, And for me is, he bought, as a joke, he says, okay, Christian, let me show you how it works. He bought a water bottling company, okay? Happens to be out of Poland. I seen him a year later. I said, hey, how is the water going? He says, oh, we ate on the marketplace. I was like, how the fuck do you do that? And it's amazing how he thinks. And then, it's absolutely so for me. I think for me, if there's one thing, and by the way, I wrote down a whole ton of stuff from you already, is everybody needs to have a mentor, and you need to have a mentor who gives you shit. Because the very first time I went in, he says, I have 3 asks. I don't need money. I want you to be here on time. I want you to leave on time. I was like, okay. And he said, and I want you to follow up on the things we talk about. And I always tell a story. The very first time, I had like 2 pages of notes. I said, thank you, sir. I went in my car, drove down his driveway, and I stopped at the driveway, and I was like, I'm not sure if this is the right guy. I was scared. And for me, and then now we're talking about it, I honestly believe we all need somebody like that. And now, we want to go into something different. We have a different mentor, and we have 4 mentors currently we're working with. So for me, having a mentor is the single best thing I did for our business. And even now, when I talk to him, I try to get all my ducks in a row. He constantly gets me, and and that's the most amazing thing about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think it's time on task. I mean, I'm a very big believer in hard work, and that sometimes that means putting in hours. Like I do, believe in a fairly long, work week for myself. And I know not everybody is into that, and that's fine. But I like it because the time on task it increases your skill level. You just get more. You just get more events. You get more experiences. You see more things. So there's a higher likelihood that any problem that comes up next, you have already done, right? You've already seen that problem before. Yeah. And I think that it's a huge part of it is that the more time on task you get, the more prepared and the easier it is for you to solve problems that might be harder for others to solve because they may have not seen it before. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of it is just seeing all those different scenarios go out. I have, in Chicago, we have almost every, venture capital group here is on our cap table and is invested in us. And every time there's a portfolio company in Chicago that gets a cease and desist letter, right? Like they send them to me, right? So that I can explain, tell them all the different angles and what we went through and what happened. And I love that part of it. That is always time well spent because there were people who helped me in the early days for seemingly no reason. I have no reason why this guy wanted to spend 2 hours with you. Every other week, like he went to the same church, but he barely knew you, but he's willing to give time, and his time is so valuable. Yeah. So many people did that to me. Like so many people did that to me. I wouldn't be here if those people didn't choose to do that.
I love what you said because he said to me, the very first time he asked me, so why did you choose me? And I said, hands down, I want to drive the kind of car you drive. I want to live in the kind of house you live. And I want to make the impact you made. Yeah. And he said, do you want to do the work? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm ready. And I always said, hey, I'm an entrepreneur now. I left a 50-hour job, to work 80 hours. But I look forward every time I meet him. And for me, I always say, how do you think the way you do? And he consolidated a company. If you know the history of Cadbury,
Mhm.
um, it was just for me. I think I would not be where I am today without him. Number one. So
Yeah.
this is our listeners. You need to go out and find yourself a mentor, and it doesn't mean. And the second thing you need to learn, and I hope our listeners heard that, if you get a cease and assist letter, you need to go Sterling, because he's gonna bail you out. So thank God I never received one. I never wanted to receive one, but if I do, I most certainly will reach out to you. By the way, I can talk to you forever, and we already 35 minutes. But I want to
Mhm.
see. So, if anybody is an entrepreneur looking for doing something, like you did in the tech space, what are some key lessons on key learnings you would kind of pass on to them to kind of become that mentor and shorten the learning curve?
Yeah. There's a lot. You need, if you're going to start a company, you have to have an expert on whatever it is you do as a co-founder.
Mhm.
If you're starting a tech company, you need a technical co-founder. If you are starting a restaurant, you need someone who knows food. You
Mhm.
need the chef. Like the business side of it, like you need that too. But in the first company I started, I didn't have a technical co-founder. My co-founder and I were like the same person.
Yeah.
We had the same skills. Our minds actually worked very similar, and that was a huge detriment. When we started Chowly, Justin, this is the classic 10x engineer. His brain
Yeah.
works completely different from mine. It's completely different, but he also understands the sales side, the business side. But that was a huge, like, having the technical co-founder when you're starting a tech company, because I can't code. I
Mhm.
know how it works. I could write a really crappy little web app if I needed to. It wouldn't do anything. So I understand it, but like, you need to have the subject matter expert. You need to have the domain expertise
Mhm.
in that co-founding team. I think to be it, that was the biggest mistake that I made in the first, and I made a lot of.
I thank God you made all the mistakes, because I made zero mistakes. And
Oh, all right, dang, all right, that's
um,
awesome.
because for me, I think that's what and you talk about this all the time. And my wife always says, she says, I can't believe you have the company after day after all the times you effed up. I did. I did. And listen, I'm not as broad as you, but we did a lot. And so for me, number one thing is people need to get a mentor of some sort. And then the second thing is they need somebody who lifts them up. Because for me, and I wanted to see who that was for you, because for me, full transparency, my first thing I started, I was on my own. And it was really, really hard to stay motivated being on your own. And I had a team of 6 people. And every day I was like, am I doing the right thing? What else can I pick up from somebody else? And I spent so much time looking outside of myself than looking from, what I have learned, that I know exactly why our first business failed, because I spent time chasing, what I thought I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And um, and having now the mentors I had, and by the way, you got to pay for a mentor. So if you're out there and there's somebody coming to you and say, oh, hey, I'm being your mentor for free, walk away. Because I honestly think if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. And it's as simple as that. So for me, my guy currently, like I said, he does not charge me. But when I go, I want to make sure I provide value to him, and I go in and says, hey, remember the last time, this is what we talked about. I did this, and this. This didn't work. Hey, what do you think I do with this here? And I constantly have my whole book with him to kind of get some feedback from him, because I want him to know when he tells me something, I follow through on it. And so for me, if you do not follow through on things, do not get a mentor, because no mentor is going to be good for you. So for me, I also love this about you, because you said this in, one of your earlier conversations. You talked about, hey, the mentor I have today is like a Bible. And, I go to him and he beats me up, and I'm happy I beat me up. So for me, I love that about you. So, and I want to watch the time, because I can talk to you forever. So, but I'm also interested in who are you as a person? So, and I always ask this question, and let me ask you the same question. What are you working on you for the next 6 months? So what is the kind of like, give us the behind the look scenes? What are you working on for you? Because in order for things to get better, I honestly believe you need to get better. So what are you working on you? And then what are you working on your business for the next 6 months? So let us look a little bit behind the scenes and give us a glimpse on what you're working on.
Yeah, I think if it's not Chowly related, it's my family. I mean, it is any hour that I'm not, working on Chowly. I'm present, with my wife, my daughter. I have a 2-year-old,
Mhm.
and she's awesome. And I love spending time with her. Spending time with them is like energizing. Like I get energy from that. So I definitely like, those are really, that's, if you're going to take those two things, that's about 99% of my awake time these days. But I think that, for me, I'm always trying on the personal health side.
Mhm.
I love cardio work. I'm a guy who just gets the runner's high, whether I'm biking or running or whatever, or going on a hike, and doing those things. So definitely always working on that. Currently working on just trying to get to the gym 6 times a week right now is a little goal I have. But yeah, I mean, on the personal side, like those are the things I'm working on. On the Chowly side, on the business side, look, I mean, the number one thing for us is our platform product.
Mhm.
This is the product that we released in January. That's been years in the making. We spent 2 years. We bought 2 companies. We created more products. We've done so much, and we're finally bringing it together. And the reception has just been awesome. You can just take so much off of a restaurateur's plate, right? Like, but it's stuff they have to do,
Mhm.
right? If I were to start a restaurant today, the first thing I would do would be focusing on Google and making sure that my Google business profile is set up and that I'm running a very low budget, Google ad, so that I can
Mhm.
get the data, that I can get my website and everything targeted at the right audience, right? And so we can do that for you. We can take it off the restaurateur's plate,
Mhm.
and then be able to share the results. Like, my favorite part about the platform tool is that the customer will be the first one to know it's not working, because we give them a live data feed to exactly how we're doing.
Mhm.
We tell them, yesterday you spent $5 on a Google ad and you got $38 of converted sales. One of them was come from a new customer, and one of them was from an existing customer, so that they know exactly where the dollars are going. And
Yeah.
the amount of work a small restaurant group or an independent would have to do just to be able to get those couple numbers is immense if you don't have a product. So we're constantly trying to push the envelope on kind of giving this enterprise grade technology to the independent restaurants so they can punch above their weight class. We want to show them a true return on ad spend, not a guess,
Mhm.
right? Not the marketing hand wavy, cost per click stuff, but real dollars and cents that are going into their pockets. And this platform product has the ability to do that, and we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
For the next 6 months, we need to keep pushing on that and to get more and more of these insights into the restaurants and doing the work for them, building the emails for them,
Mhm.
right? Tweaking the website for them so that they can focus on the restaurant. And that's what we're going to continue to work on for the next 6 months, because there's a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And before we go, I wanted to see if you're up for playing rapid fire food service edition.
All right, I'm up for it.
Before we play, help our listeners to understand a little bit more how they can get a hold of you, how can they find out more about you, and how can they read up on your company.
The easiest way to do it is just to go to our website, chowly.com. There's an intro video to our platform product there. There's a whole page detailing each kind of product that's part of the platform, everything from the review management to the email marketing to our revenue recovery to our dynamic pricing. Everything is there to be able to learn more. And ours, you'll talk to a person, right? We got real humans here, in the U.S. that we can talk to
I love that.
show them the product and answer any questions they have.
Great. So good. So good. I could talk to you forever. So you need to promise us what other thing? We need to do a 2.0 of that.
Okay.
Because what I'm really, and we didn't have that much time today to go into it, because I want to know what went through your mind where you said, hey, I can serve people in a lot greater way if I do something else. And I want to know a little bit more about the struggle. And then you have a young family. How is this working? Because we just did an episode not long ago with a really highly entrepreneur, runs a $250 million company. And he said, hey, being intentional. For me, I absolutely love that. So I want to have a little deeper conversation with you around that. It's if you're open to that. So with that, let's play rapid fire question food service edition. And so you're not being really a chef or anything. So I'm not sure how you're going to do it. But the way this thing works is we have 25 questions and my team is mean. They made, you, by the way, have the brand new questions here. And so the way it works, I ask you for a number between 1 and 25, read out the question, and then you answer yes or no and why. You're bored. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
13.
13 is a good one. Should mac and cheese be eaten straight from the pot? Yes or no, and why?
I could, yes, should, no. I believe in popping that thing in. Yeah. I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna go with no. That's my answer.
I like that. Because if you would have had said yes, because sometimes chefs get mad. They want you to sit outside and don't come in inside and eat the mac and cheese. Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
22.
22. Ooh. Should you ever deep fry a salad just to see what happens? Yes or no?
Yes.
And why?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's a whole.
You don't know if you don't try.
I'm pretty sure there's a whole movement. A salad should not go in the fryer later. But okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
12.
12. Ooh, have you ever accidentally started a small fire in the kitchen? Yes or no, and why?
I used to cook a ton. No, I have not. I have put out 2 though, from family members, but I've never started one.
That is very good. So, listeners, if he invites you to his house, say no, because especially if family members cook. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
10.
10. Should all food be served with a surprised ingredient? Yes or no, and why?
No. all food, no. Sometimes, yeah, for sure.
I'm with you. Sometimes leave the surprise behind it all. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
1.
1. Can bacon make literally everything taste better, including ice cream? Yes or no, and why?
No. Makes a lot of things better, but not everything.
I'm with you. So last question. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
7.
Ooh, 7 is an oldie but goodie.
Gotcha.
Pineapple on the pizza. Yes
no.
or no?
No, absolutely not.
So from our innovative chefs, don't listen to him. Pineapple is fantastic. Look, it made Wolfgang Puck $300 million. If it can do it for him, so can you. So don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. Now, and that concludes Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. I really appreciate you playing that. And but before we go, tell us, what is one secret you would tell somebody if they come to you and say, hey, I want to be you 2.0.
Don't. No, I mean, one secret. We talked about mentors. We talked about putting in the hours. We talked about resilience. Those are 3 things that I think really define a lot of what what got us here. I think the only thing we really didn't touch on as much that I think is so critical is having the right team. I would not be here without my co-founder. And my COO and my CRO have been here since almost the beginning, and they're the right ones. And every time I've gotten a leader position right, you can literally look at the revenue number. And I put a graph up of the history of Chowly, and it was a line graph, and it was just our revenue. Every time it kind of went from like flat to growing, like every time that curve steepened, it was when I made the right leadership hire. You can literally point to it on a graph. It translates to dollars. Getting the right team and the right leadership, it is so hard to do. And when you get it right, it is an inflection point for your business.
I love that. I love that. By the way, I absolutely love the conversation today, and we almost at an hour. So I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. And I know you're a busy guy, but for me, I absolutely love what you guys do as a company, and I absolutely love the way you look at this. So I want you to do more of that. So I really appreciate you being here. And to our audience, if you haven't done so, make sure you like this episode or share it with somebody who needs to learn how to get a mentor. And by the way, I have eight notes here, how to speak the right language, because for me, and then mentorship, people listening to me know exactly how important that is. And for me, was one of the things which really pivot us in a different direction. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here, and to our listener, until next time, remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian here with Sterling, and we are out of here. So I'm the entrepreneur which started the entrepreneurial chef. So I'm really excited to be here today, but I am signing off. So go out there, be the challenge, be the chef who sets the world on fire. So with that, Sterling, I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. We need to promise to come back to do 2.0. And to our listeners, go out there and be disruptive, everybody. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Christian.